owning your change story to make it a good thing. What does that even mean when you start to think about owning change? That's what we're going to be exploring in this session. Who the heck am I to talk about this? Well, I am Eleanor Tweddle. I'm a change communications consultant. I go into organizations and help them to navigate change, whether it's the story of change for employees or whether it's learning interventions or training in change. I go in and help organizations go from where they are to, to moving somewhere else. I've done this in-house and I now do it as a consultant. So I see change in action, and it's what caught my attention because sometimes when you go in as a communications consultant, you're communicating a story, but my real interest starts to lie in human behavior, in individuals. Even though corporate comms is obviously going out to the masses, I'm really interested in how it gets received on an individual level. That's where my coaching and my facilitating comes in because I really like holding space for thinking and conversations about change. I write about change, and I guess I've got the curious mind to go and find out about research or do my own pieces of research to really start developing, well, how do we, as individuals, as humans, messy humans, go through change and make it a good thing? How can we step out of the resistance and the fear? Started my writing with a book, Why Losing Your Job Could Be the Best Thing That Ever Happened to You, all about redundancy and what happens when you kind of lose your identity through losing your job. And my next book widens this about when a door closes in your life, how do you navigate it despite everything that's coming at you to make it a good thing? I founded Another Door in 2016. This is where it started for me when I lost my job. I just started writing a blog. Didn't really have too much direction of where it was going to go, but it grew. And we created, along with some other coaches and experts, an experience which is about these 5 steps to thrive after redundancy. Over 700 people have now been through that program. I started a podcast, Another Door Stories, all about people telling their story of when a door closed and what happened. From all of these conversations, whether it's one-to-one coaching or whether it's just listening and observing when I'm working with organizations, I started to map out how people talk about going through change, where I see resistance show up, my observations around what we do. And all of this mapping has come together in this piece of research that goes into the book Another Door, but also about this work that I'm doing now. How do we navigate change better? It leads me to just sit with that question because actually we never get to a place where we absolutely nailing change. Change is happening to us as we will explore as we go through this workshop. It's happening to us all the time. So how can we do change better? Right, let's get started. Enough about me. Let's create a lovely space to think. Big change, little change. We all go through change, probably every day. Whether we are really aware of it or whether it bypasses us. We've got work changes, health changes, family changes, politics. We've got world changes, climate changes, aging, all of this stuff going on around us. How much of this do we grab hold of? We couldn't grab hold of it all. We'd be overwhelmed. And thinking about work, promotions, new line managers, leadership changes, rebranding, new products, tech fails, all coming at us every day. So actually, maybe we're better at change than we think. but perhaps we just need to bring more awareness to it. So the question sits with us, if we're doing it every day, how good are we at it? And in this moment, I want us to sit with ourselves. How do you do change? I want you to get to know yourself really well in moments of change. Whoa, look at this. I love this photo, but it does make me feel slightly intimidated. Yes, the finger is pointing at us today. And this might sound obvious. Of course, it's about us. Of course, it's about our thinking time. But I run these workshops with teams and organizations. And what I see is people really struggle with creating space to think about themselves. Our self-awareness is sometimes something we just don't give ourselves space to do. We push the blame, or we think about team or organization or our to-do list. We push it externally instead of bringing it inside. So actually, that is our challenge as we navigate this workshop. I want you to really bring it inside. These people are not laughing at us. They are encouraging us, supporting us to really dig deep and search. Let go of external and go internal. So let's start. I want you to get really comfortable. I'm going to ease you in slowly. We're just going to sit with questions. Simple questions like, what is change? If you've got a pen and paper, start to write down things that come up. You think about what is change to you. Because again, we might have socialized versions on what we think. Well, change is this and change is that. And it might be just something that we have heard others say. But what does it really mean to you? Now, this is not about having right answers and being really super clear all the time as we navigate through this. You might struggle a little bit sometimes with some of the things that we're thinking about, but just go with it. Perhaps change is panic, annoyance, disruption, excitement, hope, fun, worry, pain, hurt, energy, creativity. Maybe you've just written, it depends. When a door closes in our life, we can look at it through the lens of a door closing and everything we are losing, or we can see a door opening and everything that it's bringing us. We've all got our own way of navigating change. Whatever has just come up there initially on your first thinking about change is yours to own. There's no right or wrong answer. I call it our change mastery. And change mastery is always changing. But we can get little insights about ourselves, little hints that just help us to catch ourselves or help us to help others through change. In Another Door, we have a couple of personas that just help to get that unruffling going, that thinking going about, well, who am I in moments of change? You could be the adaptive explorer, the one that's like, okay, let's go, we'll set off, we'll work this out. The cautious thinker that just wants to step out a little bit and think about things first. Perhaps the strategic planner that's very practical, that likes data and facts about change and can then put a plan together. Perhaps the thoughtful observer just wants to step out and watch what's going on, perhaps more from an external point of view. Or maybe a fearless trailblazer. You will just dive in and off you go and you get really super excited about change. Now, going back to that first question we sat with, it might depend. But what we find is sometimes in our change mastery, there's one that we perhaps default to in moments more than others. So, as we go through this, this is just to think about what is your change mastery at this moment in time. And as I said, change mastery will change with us. You could perhaps be a fearless trailblazer 20 years ago when you were young and fearless and you had ambitions and goals and you were excited about life. Now perhaps you feel like you need to be a little bit more cautious. There's perhaps more things that you need to take into account. So there's no right way to do change. But there does have to be a huge big dose of self-awareness. An awareness that really catches you in the moment. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I behaving like this? Is this intentional? Is this controlled? And when we're in that space, we can do better work for ourselves. We can do better work for others. So we can own change. We can decide how to do it. We can choose it to make it a good thing. But it all comes down to choice. So we're going to use a little tool today to help us to explore this navigation of, well, what is my change mastery? How is it showing up? How do I own my change story? We'll navigate 5 key questions that just help us to start the thinking. They come under 5 steps. The first step, acknowledge. The second step, observe. The third step, process. Fourth, explore. And the fifth, choose. These are steps that I've created through that mapping process over the years that I explained when I was working with people going through change. Mapping out, well, how are they getting to these parts of decision making? What are the parts they're getting stuck at? And these 5 questions seem to be the ones that are game changing. Now, as we explore this, I will throw other little questions at you. It's important to kind of move around our thoughts and see what comes up. But the 5 questions are really the ones that we can activate very quickly in moments of change to help us acknowledge, observe, process, explore, and then choose how we want to go through this. So we're going to use free thinking. I'm going to hold space for your thoughts. I don't want you to overthink. You don't need to edit. I call it this unruffling, where you're just writing down what comes up as you're listening. So switch off all notifications, any distractions. We don't need any of that around us to do good work today. Really create some nice space to think, and you'll get something from it. This is part of taking ownership. If you turn up to things and you're only half in the space, you're not doing yourself service, you're not doing yourself or the thing that's being held for you any service. You won't get the most out of things. This is about creating notes to self, writing to you. It's not a training experience. This is not a lecture. This is about you writing notes to self about what is coming up when you start to think about some of these things. Notice where resistance comes up. Resistance is a huge player in the moments of change. And if we can get to understand where resistance shows up for us, we can work on our change mastery. So note that, scribble things down that come up and you feel uncomfortable or you're questioning or you feel blank. See where the insights come from. Right, let's get going. We've got work to do. We have got some good, deep thinking to do. And we're going to start with step one, acknowledge. Acknowledge the reality of the change, emotionally, cognitively, and situationally. It's about stepping away for a moment and acknowledging that this change is happening. Because as we've already started to explore, a lot of change just passes by. Maybe we don't fully acknowledge the change that is happening to us. So, how can we actually use it with intention? So, the question that we sit with is what is actually changing? To help you through this process, perhaps start to bring up some ideas of change. And as we go through this, maybe examples in your life will come to you, either minor change or big, huge change that you are navigating or you have navigated. It'll help you to sit with these questions. Change arrives like a thunderclap, or sometimes it trickles quietly over time. It's one of the few guarantees in life. And yet, our natural instinct is often to avoid it, rationalize it away, sprint past the uncomfortable feelings it evokes. But what if instead the most powerful thing we can do is to pause and acknowledge the change? Our reaction to change is always changing. Sometimes things that absolutely break our day, another day just would bypass us. So it's this scaling of change and how much control and intention you're putting on it. And deciding on a scale of this is just a mild annoyance, I'll maybe get over it, to this is game-changing, life-changing moment for me. The decision is yours. No one else's. We don't have a predetermined list that says, well, if this happens, this is game-changing. And if this happens, well, you can just go over it. That is an error we often make. You cannot say that every single time X happens to someone, it's life-changing. It might not be. Because sometimes we can just move through it. It's our decision. We're deciding what matters to us and what doesn't. Things come along that change our state of mind. One day we get up, we're having a great day, we're heading off to work, and then our commute is disrupted. The road ahead is closed. We need to now find a different route. We thought we were going to go on a lovely bike ride, but it's pouring with rain and now we're soaking wet. The weather has come at us. It's 4:59 and that email drops into your inbox. Could we just tweak the final version? I know it's signed off, but could we just do? And then people come along and change our mind. These small micro things that come at us on a daily basis, we might not acknowledge as being big change moments, but they change our state of mind. If we are not aware of them, if we do not acknowledge them, we just allow it to happen. We get infuriated by road closures and commutes that are disrupted, and it's ruined our day. And we get into the office and then we ruin everybody else's day because now we're in a bad temper. It wasn't gonna be like that. Something changed. The weather, the sunshine comes out, we're all a bit happier. It rains, we all feel miserable. These are choices that we are making. That email, do we let it go? Do we let it bother us? Do we bring it home with us? Oh, you'll never guess what happened. Oh, I'm so angry. And now we're bringing it into our home. We're choosing. Something's changed. We're choosing. That person who's now kind of in our space and perhaps bringing their energy into it, we're choosing whether to allow it in and absorb and take it with us or to let them be in their space. So things come at us. Perhaps you've had something today that changed your state of mind. You got up this morning, you thought it was going to go, you were fine, and something's already changed your state of mind. It's a human response because it's unknown. We don't know how we're now going to get to work. We don't know now how we're going to feel about the day. It feels like, where did that come from? And we react because we feel like it's a threat. Here's a science bit. I know we all love a little bit of science, don't we? This limbic system that we have is completely normal as humans to react in that way because it gets activated when we perceive uncertainty, even if it's something like perhaps a status change. Perhaps we just feel like we're losing a bit of control, or it's this kind of fear factor of failure coming at us. So the thing happens, and we start to then perceive it as a risk, something that's not safe for us, something we didn't expect, and now we're having to think about. So we shouldn't feel bad that we do these things. We shouldn't feel bad that we kind of get a little bit angry sometimes when things aren't kind of going, or we default to perhaps a behavior that we perhaps don't really want to default to. It's just our emotional reaction. It's just the resistance that sometimes we might have needed in the past to help us, to keep us safe. So let's not beat ourselves up about how we react in the moment. But what we're going to move into is, well, how can we do better at moving through these moments? The very first thing and the easiest thing to do is name the change. This comes in the acknowledgement. If we deny it or if we ignore it, it kind of delays our progress. It delays our growth opportunity. We could name the situation. So we could say, well, my role is shifting. It's triggering a fear of losing relevance. We lost a client. That's changed the stability that I relied on. I'm entering a new phase of life. It's less certain. It could be more emotional around how you're feeling. I'm feeling the grief. I'm feeling anxiety. I'm feeling afraid. It could be around identity. I'm letting go of who I thought I had to be. It's challenging how I see myself. So naming and labeling, and it doesn't have to be as deep as these. This perhaps is as you get used to your change mastery coming up, you can get into these deeper statements. But you can see how just naming and acknowledging the thing that's come at you can quickly help. So the road has closed, your commute is now going to be going in a different direction. You can name it. It's annoying, and that's fine. Notice that we're not trying to find an answer quite yet. All we're trying to do is to calm the emotional brain. We just want to calm things down by saying, what's happening is, and I feel. So, okay, the road is closed and I feel a bit worried I'm not going to make it to work on time. So already it brings us and steps us into a new space, just giving us a space to acknowledge what is happening. If you've got a thought in mind that you've been thinking about, the change that you're going through, have a little play with this right now. What is happening and how does it feel? Things change in our life. Big things change in our life. Sometimes we don't even acknowledge them. Becoming a parent, a guardian, a carer. That's a big thing. Have we properly acknowledged that? Have we ever sat there and gone, I am now a parent and I feel worried about that. Things have changed for me. Do we ever sit in that moment and acknowledge it? I'm getting married. I'm moving to a different space in a relationship. And I don't know how this is going to be now for me. Or do we just kind of take it as, oh, it's just another life stage. We all go through it. Yes, but we all navigate this in different ways. It means different things to us. Moving house. Some people love moving house. Some people, it could be the worst thing they've had to do. This picture could actually be getting a dog as well, because I actually talk to a lot of my clients, people I work with, and actually getting a dog, getting a pet, getting something you have to look after that's going to actually change how you live, how you think. It's important to acknowledge it. I'm getting a dog, so actually, I might not be able to go on holiday 10 times a year anymore. This picture, this is, what do you think this picture is? This is actually my picture about aging. Like a fine wine, or maybe this is whiskey barrels, I'm not sure. But, aging, are we acknowledging we age? Things change for us in the different stages of life, and our bodies change. I'm in complete denial that I can no longer do certain yoga positions. Yes, I know, that's no excuse. There's lots of very, very super fit people, but I need to do things differently now. My body has entered a new phase. So things have changed already for us in our lives, but how much have we acknowledged it? How much have we really taken into account how we've navigated it, or have we just gone along with it, muddled through because that's what life is? So in this space of acknowledgement, we're not looking for solutions or answers yet. We just want to name what's happening. We want to kind of get a bit messy with the emotions. We don't need to fix them, we just need to acknowledge them. And acceptance plays a role in this. Accepting that something has changed. Not about resigning to it or giving up or surrendering to it at this point in time. It's just this acknowledgement and acceptance that something has changed. Whether it's these things that have just changed our state of mind, small micro changes in life, or big, huge life things. Acknowledgement helps us to be more intentional and own it. Psychological flexibility starts with acknowledging, and psychological flexibility is this huge, powerful thing that helps us to get through change and see opportunity. It starts with being present in the moment, even when it's uncomfortable. Like just being in that moment of acknowledgement, no matter how uncomfortable it is, and saying, okay, I don't want to admit it, but I am now no longer able to do X because my body just isn't in that space anymore. I can no longer fit my size 12 trousers. There you go, I've said that out loud. That was very, very emotional and uncomfortable moment. Or it could be some really big stuff that you have to be present with and be uncomfortable with. When we do this, we open up to our thoughts and emotions and we don't have to fight them or push them away. We can just accept them and bring them in. Like, I feel worried. I do feel nervous. I feel upset. I feel sad. I do feel sad about my size 12 trousers, if I'm going to be honest with you, but it's time for them to go. Where we want to get to is a place where we can act in alignment with our values of who we are now. And that's what we're really going to keep unruffling as we keep going through these steps and asking ourselves questions. The psychological flexibility pin, because I know, as an audience, you're a curious mind. It's all around this kind of ACT, the acceptance and commitment therapy that was developed by Stephen Hayes. Thoroughly recommend looking that up if you've not come across it. Some really interesting work around how we bring presence into change. So let's sit with our questions. Acknowledgement is the reality of the change, whether it's emotional, cognitive, or situational, we acknowledge it. So we sit with the question of, okay, what is the scale of change? And this is for you to decide. As I said, there isn't a scale of change that I can just deliver on a PDF right now. Although there's some kind of interesting work out there that says that some things bring more stress than others, but we're all individuals. So, what is the scale of change? That's what you sit with when change comes knocking on your door. You sit with what exactly has changed internally and externally. Get detailed on it. Hang on, what exactly is changing? And then we sit with, okay, I'm going to name the change. It can help bring me calm. We can sit with these questions with big life changes. We can sit with them with a work thing. It's a new way of expenses that have come in. That's change. That could change our state of mind. All we want to do is get our expenses done. Now they've done a different way. I don't know how to do it. It's now taking me 7 hours rather than just the 30 minutes that I allocated. The scale of change. I could make this hugely important in my life, a catastrophe, or I could just go, okay, I perhaps just need to reschedule a couple more hours or get some training in this, do it another time. What exactly has changed? Just a process, just a different way that probably if you do it 1 or 2 times, it will become norm. So name the change. It's annoying, but it's fine. So you can see how starting to grab hold and acknowledge can begin to give us different ways of navigating change and bring us to this question of step one. What is actually changing? Not just assuming that all change is bad, all change is good, all change will bring us all the same things. But what is actually changing? That brings us into step two, observe. Observe yourself and your environment without judgment. By stepping back, you will gain clarity. This is the Red Hawk, and I was reading up about this, watching a documentary actually. They sometimes circle their prey or where they're going to land at least for 30 minutes before deciding to swoop. That's probably quite a grim example to bring into our thoughts. But for me, it kind of felt quite soothing just watching a bird soar and circle while it decides to make its move. It doesn't make hasty decisions. It's very careful. Most birds are very careful because they're conscious of one false move and that could be a disaster. So actually this observe piece is really important, giving ourself space and time without judgment. So the question we sit with in step two is, what is going on for yourself and for others? What's going on for me? What's going on for other people? Change triggers automatic reactions, emotional surges, assumptions, and defensive habits. We've already started to unruffle that just thinking about that moment in the acknowledgement space. These cloud our thinking and they pull us into survival mode. But by stepping back and out, we can observe. We can shift from a reaction to a response. And now in that space, new insights can emerge. Better choices become visible to us. And we reclaim our power to lead ourselves and others through change with intention, not just on impulse. Observation is important because we can't change what we can't see. If we're not allowing ourselves to step out and observe, what are we trying to change? Most of our decisions are made very unconsciously. So this moment of observing brings them to our awareness. Doesn't mean we'll do anything about them. It just means that we now know about it. So step out to observe. What is going on? How are you behaving? How are others behaving? What positions are people taking? What position are you taking? What roles are coming up? What patterns do you see? What emotions are being played out, are being shared, are visible, perhaps invisible? So think about that change that you are navigating right now and think about how you are behaving. What position are you taking? Are you the martyr? It's all being done to you, or are you taking some ownership already? Are you taking the role of, okay, this is fine, we'll get through this, I'm the strong person, or are you following someone else? Is there a pattern that you can see coming up? Is there emotions that perhaps aren't being shared? Now, this is where change gets messy because there's no right and wrong answers here. When you observe, you have to suspend that judgment. You can't just bring your own identity into this because sometimes you make errors. So, observing is actually a skill we need to work on. Because if you just bring in your own space and you think, well, I'm quite happy about this. So what all I can see right now is a load of people just moaning about stuff. And to be quite honest, I think they should just get on with it. Okay, you're kind of observing, but you're not truly observing because you're just bringing in your space and then applying it to others. Whereas if you step out and say, okay, what I see is worried people, people who maybe aren't seeing the benefits, people who have got different things going on, people who need support in a different way. I have this thing called flutter, which sometimes kind of helps these moments to help bring us into a space of non-judgment. Something comes at us, a small thing, a big thing. And we can decide, what are we going to do? How are we going to react to it? Flutter is when your reaction is no opinion, no emotion, no energy. I'm applying none of these things to that right now. I don't have enough data, I don't have enough fact or opinion, I haven't had time to run through these steps, so I'm applying nothing right now. I'm going to just float above this thing that's happening. Now, remember, this is not about just having no responsibility, it's about creating a space of no judgment yet. Because when we want to observe, we need a clear mind, a mind that hasn't formed an opinion yet. So it's a little tool you can put in your toolbox. It can be really useful if something's come at you really quickly and you suddenly react. You know, you get that email, someone's complaining about something, and it just sets you off, doesn't it? You think, oh, for goodness sake, that's jumping in to a reaction. If you flutter, you just think, okay, I'm going to have no opinion about this right now. I'm going to have no emotion. I'm going to apply no energy to it. I'm just going to create a little bit of space to think. Now, sometimes you might only have a few seconds to do that, or sometimes you might have overnight or more time. But again, if you think, I'm just going to flutter, it just gives you time to be a little bit more intentional about your next step because you've observed, you've given yourself time to observe. Let's dig around this kind of emotional thing. Like, what are we actually observing? Well, for me, I think the biggest thing in change, especially in organizations, is observing emotions and where people are. And usually we kind of use the change curve. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, an amazing piece of work, which helps us to understand that when change comes our way, we go into shock, denial, frustration. There's a dip of a low. Sometimes it's called a depression. And then we come out through experimenting or trying. We make a decision, then we integrate. And this change curve is used in all kinds of different change management. It might come in the strategic narrative that we're sharing. You might be really familiar with this. And it's kind of useful. But in my work, what I see is it's a little bit more messy. We often feel many different things. Some of us don't start in the denial space. Some of us start with much excitement. So actually, our change curves can all look a little bit different. So imagine me as the communications person coming in thinking, oh, well, everybody's feeling denial right now. So let's put our comms in that. Well, that's okay. And it's as good as we can kind of get. But we shouldn't be surprised to know that people are in different spaces. So they're receiving comms, they're receiving what we're talking about in different ways. Quite often, our curve can look a bit more hazy. Now, these are just words that I've kind of put on, I've scribbled to give you an idea. You place your own words on these and what your own curve looks like. But it could look like 1 minute you feel very angry, the next minute you're a little bit hopeful. Then something might happen and it gets you worried. Then you can start to get excited because another thing's happened. But then unfortunately that gets taken away and now you're just at a blank, probably a bit confused. Feel like it's actually going backwards. This is more like what a curve looks like for most people. Perhaps have a go at drawing your change curve, the thing that you're thinking about at the moment, the thing that you're navigating. Just start at a point, perhaps where you first got to know the news of change. How did it first feel? Then what happened? Was there a certain thing that happened, or did you just shift because you'd done some thinking? Then something else? Then something else? Because, as I've said, change keeps changing. Something doesn't happen to us, and then we just stay in that space. Okay, I've lost my job, I'm just feeling really good about it. We don't just stay in that space. It shifts and moves. I've lost my job, and now I'm hopeful, but tomorrow I might feel different because I might lose the opportunity I thought I had. Or I might actually be feeling miserable, but then tomorrow might bring us excitement because someone drops an amazing message about an opportunity. Might be some indifference at the beginning, might be mild curiosity, bit of hope. Worthless worry, the resistance shows up, we get to worth it worry, an opportunity. Let's just dig around this worthless and worth it worry. I just want to pick that up now I've mentioned it. Worthless worry is when we're just kind of worrying about things we can't do anything about. It's just not helping us at all. Most of the things we are kind of worthless worry is we can't control it. We're just kind of getting consumed by things that are pointless. Worth it worry is stuff that maybe I should be thinking about this. Maybe I should be actually acknowledging it and thinking about it as a real problem. Like if you've got bills to pay, you do have to think about it. It might show up as a worry, but you're going to have to think about it. In 2 months' time, I need to pay X amount. How am I going to do it? So it's just worth knowing there's a difference there. So your curve might look something like this, for example. for your scribbling some lines now. Have a look at the words that come up for you. I'm just placing words in your mind to unruffle your thinking. I'm not telling you this is what it looks like. This is an example. This is an important thing to really think about, especially in organizations, because knowing that you've got a change curve, you're becoming more aware of yours, can help you to understand others. Because we're in the same sea of change, but we're actually all in very different boats. Look at this for an example. Here we've got Dev, Laurie, Jack, and John all going through the same change at work. Laurie was kind of all right and then took a bit of a dip, got mildly excited, and then another dip came along, but now he's okay with the change. Has kind of worked through, maybe processed, and now is okay. John was not happy at this change, full of resistance and anger about what was going on, but actually, over time, shifted, got some more information, helped themselves, shifted into a more positive space. Dev was actually really excited, but then a few things started to hit home, and actually, the realities of what was going on meant not in a great place right now. Jack's kind of stayed pretty consistent, had a few dips here and there. So this is what their squiggly change curve looks like. They're all in the same team. Now there's problems you can see. At the start, John was very much in a bad place, whereas the others perhaps were a little bit more relaxed. Like, oh, I don't know what John's moaning about. It's great, this stuff. The conversation could go a little bit like that. Whereas here, things have changed a bit. John's still isolated, but actually it's because some of the good news has come or made a decision like I'm going to make this or this is my moment to leave. This is my moment to do something new. And now it's unsettled the others like, whoa, hang on a minute, what's going on here? So they're still grouped together, but in a different place. Now here, the shape of the team has now kind of shifted. You can see where now people who perhaps were detached or not in the same group thinking are now a little bit closer. And somebody else is now feeling a little bit more isolated. So this just helps you to observe and look around. That just because you're feeling in a certain way and you've done all the awareness and you're really in charge of your change mastery, others might be going through it in a different way. So the conversations you're having, the thinking you're doing are all at different paces. I call it this kind of empathy gap. And it's not for us to close, it's not for us to do work on. I can't communicate this together, as sometimes it gets asked to do. Like, how do we make everybody feel excited about this? Please do some comms for this. I don't know if you can. What we can do is observe it and acknowledge it. It's uncomfortable. But being uncomfortable offers opportunity. We know that. It's our stretch zone. Because now we know we're all in different places. It might feel uncomfortable. It's not a beautiful, smooth moment that we thought it was, but it offers opportunity. It offers conversations. Obviously, beware that it doesn't tip us into an unsustainable place where stress comes at us, because uncomfortable can move into this stress zone quite quickly. So always be aware of that, but don't be afraid of just being uncomfortably stretched. That you may have to think of things in a different way than perhaps you wanted to, or perhaps than you are. You might have to have conversations that you think, oh, goodness me, I'm just getting on with it. Now I've got to listen to this. Trust me that these are all opportunities because different people's perspectives are an opportunity to learn something new and to see something from a fresh angle. That can only be a good thing. So, in our moment of observing, We want to step out of our space without judgment and ask ourselves, what am I noticing? What's influencing me? What do I know for sure? And what things am I just thinking I know for sure, but they're not actual facts? Just sit with those questions and think about it. What's come up when we're thinking about this moment of observing? What is really going on for you and for others? This brings us into step 3, process. Now that we have acknowledged something, we've observed it, we can then now process the emotional impact of change. And in the processing, we can start to make meaning from it. Maybe not instantly. I don't think we can just change and instantly have this moment. Some people do, but we can start. Processing helps us to slow down, tune in to what we're feeling and thinking. It allows us space to reflect. It enables us to make meaning from the experience, and it can help us to link it to our values, our dreams, our hopes, our personal growth. Mean making transforms change from something that happens to us to something we can own. So the question we sit with is, what does this change mean to you? What does the change mean to me? Unprocessed change gets stored as resistance or anxiety. So in moments of change, resistance or worry, anxiety, whatever the feeling, it will come to us. And if we don't process, we don't give it this moment, it will stay with us. Love this graph. I use this everywhere. You've got to follow Tara Wilcox on Instagram. She does these most amazing images. This is her image of Cotter's resistance to change. I love it. One of my things I really want to do in my moments of change is be a better drawer. But anyway, we digress here. But it shows well what happens. You know, examples of this resistance that shows up. Change comes our way and we jump straight into perhaps self-interest. Oh my goodness, I'm going to get sacked because this isn't my skill set. Oh my goodness, I'm too old. Blah, blah, blah. Self-interest, completely introverted, inverted, everything about us. The next part is this kind of low tolerance. Perhaps we don't really kind of do change. We have a bit of inertia around it. So actually we can kind of go, well, not sure, but okay. It's sort of like an indifference. Misinformation is huge because we jump straight into trying to find answers. As it says here, Alex from Account said, and suddenly something becomes fact. Got to be really careful of that because it's kind of useful to us, isn't it? When facts come along, but really, are they? It's just misinformation or misunderstandings, misinterpretations of things. And then we have to acknowledge that sometimes we might just disagree with the change. We just don't want it. We don't agree with it. That's okay. We have to acknowledge that. We have to observe it. And then we have to process this stuff because all of these things, all of when resistance shows up, it's not useful to us. So we can acknowledge it, we can observe it, but now we need to process it. And we can go, okay, what do I need then to help me shift into a more useful space? Is it that I feel I've lost control? So somewhere I need to find a little bit more control and agency. Perhaps I need more information or clarity on something. Perhaps it is I just need some more time and space. Sometimes we need fresh scenery, break away, fresh perspectives required. Because I just don't know right now. I can't know, I'm too in it. Space to unravel. It's up to you to find out what you need to shift. If you're finding yourself in this space of resistance, you have to grab it and say, okay, I need to process this. Why is this coming up? Why is it showing up in this way? Is it I just have low tolerance? Is it because I disagree? And then how can I help myself move? So this is really an opportunity to get to know yourself in a really deep level because you're processing, you're having to ask yourself questions about what's coming up and why, and really dig around. It can help you to think about, you've got questions around your purpose. Some change really brings this into question, like, why am I even here? And again, we can't put a label on this. I can't give you a list of change when this will come up for you. You might have this moment sitting in that traffic because, yet again, you're stuck on your commute because there's been a traffic jam. And you might have that moment of, why am I even here? What am I doing? Whereas some people think purpose is just about huge life events, illness or grief or some big change that's come along. But purpose can actually come to us in a wave at any moment. So can identity. When something might be taken away or you've not noticed that it was important to you, suddenly you think, well, who am I without this thing? Our beliefs can be challenged. Well, what do I believe? This is everything that I thought, but now, what do I believe now? It's being challenged. Then our values. What am I standing for right now? And these can change all the time. Something that was very strong for us a few years ago and really showed up for us, our value of ambition and growth and learning could very much change because of a state of mind or a life change that's made values change. What am I standing for now? Community, health, togetherness. And then there's our strengths. Just knowing, oh, okay, what have I got that can help? What can I do with ease? Not dismissing ourselves in moments of change, which is very easy to do sometimes. Sitting with the things that we find easy because it's our strengths. And the thing we should never dismiss is circumstance. Our circumstance can help us propel forward in moments of change, and our circumstance can very much hold us back. It's a reality. Processing helps us to kind of navigate through this, but it's up to you whether you go through this. You have to find your energy for what's coming up for you and what you need to do. For me, I think change reveals what really matters to us. It's a moment that we can, if we give it space and time, we can really begin to understand, wow, I just didn't even know that mattered to us. I've been dismissing it, or I haven't been acknowledging it, or I haven't been giving it space all this time. Values can help us with that. If you've never done a piece of work about what your values are, I fully recommend it, just to sit with, what are my values? We don't have time to do it fully today, but just sitting with, thinking about all these values that you could have. What's really driving you? What would you say your values are right now? The things that are playing hard, that are helping you make decisions, your sort of moral compass. Maybe you've got some values that are actually hidden. You're not giving them attention. They're actually kind of, I call them dormant values. For me, I discovered creativity a few years ago. It was a huge value of mine. And I was feeling increasingly frustrated with the work I was doing because I wasn't paying enough attention, giving my creativity space to breathe. So just playing around with your values. I know that Brené Brown says maybe two. Some other people who work in value space say maybe three, four, five. It's up to you, really. What works for you? That's the most important thing. But what's playing out for you right now? And is it really playing, or are you realizing actually it's because I'm not giving this value space to show up in my life that there's actually some friction, there's resistance. So it's true that when change shakes us, perhaps it's our identity or shakes what we think is the norm, returning to values helps to give us a bit of direction, helps us to go, oh, okay, that's what I should do next. So for me, when I realized this job that I had been doing is completely now, there's no creativity involved, there's no creating, there's no problem solving, then I could know what to do next. Find something. Either if I can't leave that job immediately, then find something in my personal space, which I did, to help me to help creativity to show up because it brings me energy. And then maybe I can start to find ways to bring it into my work. So it's about noticing the things that are mattering to you and knowing if they are showing up or perhaps you're ignoring them. Notice where your energy is getting drained and where it's getting charged, where you're getting some real buzz. Notice what you're prioritizing. Now, to do proper values work, you've got to give yourself loads of time. Most people kind of maybe sometimes put family, freedom, money, something like that. You kind of go very straightforward, but I would strongly recommend to dig around that and really challenge yourself in what does it actually mean? The next layer of thinking when you're thinking about values. So it matters because when we've got organizational change, sometimes there's these kind of conflicts and clash, and we don't quite understand them. If you really understand your personal values and how they're showing up, what things you feel in conflict with, and then there's organizational values. Sometimes they're just a poster on the wall, sometimes they're truly lived as part of culture. That's for you to know and understand. There's this overlap. Look at that, a rosette. I don't think we see too many rosettes anymore, but it's where the prize is in the overlap. Organizations that try to force their values on people without helping them to understand how to understand their own personal values, it's where it gets confusing. It's where it doesn't feel like it's deeply embedded or there's a connection. Because you can't just force a value. So if an organization says, our values is something terrible, like not a value, customer service, that's not a value. But anyway, you sometimes see that on a poster. And we're forcing that on someone who actually doesn't value that. And we're doing that without having the conversation and understanding of where does the overlap? What does this look like for me? Because I have a personal value of X, the organization has values of this, where the conversation sits in the middle. It's where we make sense of change. It's where we make sense of what's going on for us. So that is why this stuff is important, not just for ourselves, but to broaden what we see and how we are interacting with the rest of community, work, how it shows up. So, step 3, processing, helps us to reframe the change as part of our story. That's what processing is doing. So we sit with, okay, what is this teaching me? Nice little question to help you with this is, if this was a chapter in my life story, what would I call it? Could have a little play with that right now. Think about the change that you have been thinking around. What are you going to call it? What are you learning about yourself? Perhaps things you maybe didn't know before. I shared this thing about my revelation on creativity. Didn't know it was so important to me. Of course it is. What a moment when I can understand that's why I'm not liking this job. It's not the job's fault. Not because I'm doing it wrong. There's just a disalignment. There's a mismatch now. Something's missing. What would it be called? Well, obviously, my chapter of creativity would be my creative chapter. This is where I allow myself to be the creator, the creative. So, processing is all about allowing yourself to think about what it means to you, making it part of your story. What is this change going to mean to you? That brings us into step 4. Explore. Sometimes it's where we dive straight in because when change comes along, we think we've got to problem solve. We think we've got to find the idea, we've got to find the solution. But without the first 3 steps of acknowledging, observing, and processing, we're not sure what we're exactly trying to find an answer to. What is the idea solving? So now we're in explore. We can open up to possibility, to new identities, ideas. Approach with curiosity. Curiosity means that we don't have pressure in this space. We don't, in the step of exploration, this is not about putting pressure on ourselves to find exact answers. All we want to do is sit with the question, what is possible? It's an invitation to explore, where old certainties no longer hold. New paths begin to appear. This is a time to gently explore new identities, ideas, directions, but without the burden of needing an instant answer. When we approach with curiosity rather than pressure, we create space for creativity, openness, growth. It's about allowing ourselves to ask new questions, test different ways, listen to what resonates. And it's in that space that transformation becomes possible. So exploration is where ownership begins. We start to get more curious. It helps reduce all this fear we're bringing with us, but it also brings fresh data to us. So exploration is not always just about these creative minds. Well, I'm not a creative person, so I'm not really into this step. Actually, people who like data, who want insights, facts, exploration can be a very powerful moment because it's where you go and seek it out. It's the thing that will spark the fresh perspective or give you a different angle on something, whether you need it as an information piece or whether you need it as a creative moment. This is an invitation to play. Play with ideas. Play with how you do this. We draw on the things that we've already talked about. We might need to be a bit uncomfortable with this. But exploration will deliver ideas. It's not about knowing things, it's about being brave enough to open up and go into spaces so we discover something. A couple of little tools and tricks to help you. I quite like this options thinking, where we place in our minds, look, there's always an alternative. Always. So whatever is going on, however you're reacting, there's always a different way to think about it. We can play with the options of, well, what's a good option? What's a better option? What's a bold option? And in this moment of play, we can kind of get a little bit outrageous with this. What are just the options, however ridiculous they might feel? So we can say, well, I can accept this, or I can keep trying for something better. Why not? Other people probably are in the step of this better mindset, so why shouldn't you be? We can play with the question, what are the 3 radical different ways you could move forward? Play with that idea of there's different alternatives. The answer you think you've got, other people will have different ways of looking at it. different ways of thinking. It doesn't have to feel difficult or like a gamble. Sometimes when we're having to make decisions, we're moving towards thinking about, well, what am I going to do? It can feel like, well, what if I get this wrong? So maybe introduce this exploration as a low stake experiment where it's not about changing everything. It's maybe just a little test. How can you just play with an idea that maybe just stretches the position you're in? It's not radical change. Perhaps it's just taking a different approach to something. Just sitting with the question, well, what could I try? That just at the moment feels a bit easy. So I think sometimes it can feel like change it has to be radical, but sometimes it's just an experiment. Let's just go back to being stuck in traffic. What if you were just to go, well, what if I just went a different way? What if I just turn around now? I'm not going to put myself under the pressure that this thing that I'm about to do is going to deliver me getting to work on time, but I'm going to give it a go. So I'm going to turn off, I'm going to go down a different road, I'm going to follow a different route, but it's just an exploration. Might work, it might not. Low stakes experimentation can help you to keep that open mind, which helps inform what you do next. Because it might be you discover a whole new route to work. How exciting would that be? Or it might be, okay, that didn't work. That's okay. I tried. So it is about helping us to decide what's the next right step. But maybe it's not the big, huge next right step. It's just what do I immediately do? What's the next thing I do? I like the future you conversation, which just talks to yourself in a few years' time. And they've already lived through this change, they've already got through it. Sometimes journaling kind of helps this. When you kind of go, dear future me, okay, well done, you got through this. This is how you did it. This is some of the things you explored. Visualization sometimes kind of helps in this moment. You know, you can meet your next self and have a conversation with them. You know, what did you do? How do you help yourself through this? And a big question to sit with throughout moments of change is, would future me thank me for doing what I'm doing right now? Big question. Love that question. Bring this into a lot of things I do. Is future me going to thank me for this? Future you, sometimes some people find resistance in this. This might be one of those moments, you know, resistance is kind of like, what? Talking to future me? What on earth? But play. We're in a moment of exploration. We're in a moment of play. Don't forget we've got to get uncomfortable with things we might not explored before. You never know what comes up. It's a moment for fresh perspectives. We can reframe things. We can look at the alternative, search for the other side, the other options. It's a moment to experiment. It could be a moment just to hold space. I have no opinion. Or it could be a moment to let go. The point is, you're starting to move into a space of more ownership, a clearer view on why you're doing something, but still, we don't want to bring overwhelm. We don't want pressure. We want to move through change lightly. So the questions that we sit with in the moment of exploration are what might be possible if you let go of how it's always been? Is the thought of how it's been holding you back? Who do you feel you are becoming? perhaps this exploration is revealing things about yourself that you're kind of like. Where is energy coming from? Is it coming from the same spaces as before, or has that shifted? And where is the opportunity? You can write an answer to that right now. Where is opportunity? Will obviously shift and change. But maybe the opportunity is, well, the opportunity lies in me just giving myself time to believe, to think differently, to do the work. Maybe it's as simple as that. So the question in step 4 is all about what is possible, not shutting things off, remaining open to the question of what is possible. That leads us into step 5. Choose. The moment where we choose our response, our next action, our mindset, and we do it intentionally. Step 5 is about owning the path we're going to take. The question we sit with to help us through this is, who are you going to be? This is the most important question in this moment of choosing, because it helps inform us in what we do and why we do it. Sometimes people think, oh, well, the question I thought was going to be like, what do I do next? But actually, it's more powerful to sit with, who are you going to be in this moment of change? This is about us acknowledging that in every moment we've got power, about how we show up. Life throwing us challenges, but our response is always ours to own. It's about us choosing courage over fear, choosing action over hesitation, and choosing growth over comfort. Even when it's circumstances that are beyond us, and sometimes we say, well, change is happening to us. But even then, we can choose to lead and to listen and to rise. We can own the space between the stimulus of what happens and the response we take. And it's where fulfillment is. It's where we can shape our life with clarity and purpose. So it's a powerful moment to know that we have choice and we are going to choose. In this moment, you become aware of how you're serving your wants and needs. It's important to know what we want. Perhaps in our exploration, some things have come up for us, maybe some long-term goals, some ambitions, some dreams that we actually do want to keep exploring. It may be that we can't fix them today, but actually we're now on the path. But it doesn't mean we ignore our needs. We have to understand our priorities. We have to honor our values. We have to just serve our basic non-negotiables. We have to get practical in moments of change. We can't all be in this dreamy world. They sit side by side and they work together, but they have to be acknowledged side by side. So how what we do serves these things. So having control and agency is the antidote to fear. Where we started right at the beginning, perhaps change brings us some fear. Even when we can't control what's happening, we can own our response. That's where we want to get to. Great piece of work, highly recommend, dig around it, this self-determination theory. It's all about having autonomy or the perception of choice. It really helps to motivate us. Having ownership motivates us. This is for us to own, therefore change starts to feel different. Mindset is probably the biggest tool you can work on. This piece about moving from a fixed mindset where we believe that our sort of intelligence, our talents, they're all unchangeable things. So it kind of means we avoid challenge, we fear a bit of failure, our effort is completely useless. We kind of catch ourselves saying, like, I'm just not good at this. We shift from this mindset into a more growth mindset. We believe that actually we can develop ourselves, we can learn, we can embrace challenges. Okay, if we fail, it's an opportunity. We tried. So actually, we start to say, I can learn this if I try. It's a powerful moment in the moment of choosing. You're choosing growth. As Carol Dweck, the person who brought this kind of mindset shift from fixed to growth to our attention, says, becoming is better than being. So growth is about becoming something you want to be. And actually, there's another mindset that takes us to the next level, this kind of benefit mindset, where it's not just about us, it's not just about our personal growth, but asking us the question of how can this help us? Where does this fit into the bigger picture? That's when powerful change really comes into it, because you're thinking on this wider contribution, not just about yourself, but how am I impacting others? That benefit mindset was brought to our awareness through Ash Buckham, who says benefit mindset is about being well to do good, realizing that our potential in a way that contributes to the well-being of others. So if we were all in the benefit mindset, we all benefit. Powerful to play with. So choosing mindset, if nothing else, is the moment things change for you. From I am who I am, I don't think I can change, to recognizing I can become more. This is who I want to be. And then into that shift of we can become better together. Really powerful notions to play with. So how are you going to be in moments of change? It's about choosing your mindset daily. Sometimes we will slip into fixed. We're humans, we're messy. How do we help ourselves into growth? How do we help ourselves move into benefit mindset? How do we show up at work and in life? How are we choosing our success criteria? What are the things we're beating ourselves up about? What are the things are we just saying, okay, I'm learning, it's fine? How are we going to be in the moments of change? So sitting with the questions of what are you choosing to hold on to and let go of? In a moment of choice, you have to intentionally let go as much of as choose to grab hold of something. What does ownership look like for you? Perhaps you've had thoughts as the unruffling thoughts, ideas have been coming. What does it look like for you? And maybe there's a first small step you can take, perhaps this week, that just helps you to shift into a more of a space of ownership. So step 5, the most important question to sit with is, who am I going to be in this moment of change? We can own our change story by allowing ourselves time to acknowledge it, observe it, process it, explore it, and only then can we intentionally own it. We can move through these steps of what is actually changing. What is going on for me and others? What does this really mean? What is possible? Who am I going to be? This is where we come back to the question we started with. How do you own change? How do you do change? Big change, little change, it's with us every day, all around us. It's not that we can avoid change, it's how we do it. Our experience of change, how we are thinking about it, is ours. It's unique to us and we own it. So, what if the hardest part of change is just the story we're telling ourselves? We don't need answers. Sometimes we just need to own the next step. A lot we have been through today, a lot of unruffling. Sometimes you might have had a little bit of an insight. Sometimes things are a little bit still unclear. But perhaps what's the biggest insight or aha moment you've had? What step do you really need? And what's the one thing you now need to do? Point is, you need to own your story with the intent to make change a good thing. If you don't, well, someone or something might do it for you. Are you going to see the door closing and everything you've lost, or are you going to see it as another door open?